Hey, how's it going, everybody? My name is Mark. I call the channel Mark's Musicology Euphorium. I just wanted to be really, really quick. If you're new, definitely subscribe, post some comments, definitely hit ring the bell. Everyone knows the protocols to YouTube channel, so I'm not going to be very long. I'm a little different. I don't have fancy intros. I will have a fancy intro and all that, but I just got to get unlazy and actually do it. So, without that being said, I just want to make this very, very quick because I made this video just a second ago and I was like, oh, this is way too long. It's 27 minutes. I want to get straight to the point. My point is, and I kind of predicted this, Behringer's thinking about making a Fairchild clone because I think they already realized their preamp and their compressor clone that they come out. And Behringer's always been making compressors and preamps and all that, but I think they finally nailed it in the coffin with a high, or actually really good clone. And I'm talking about the Behringer, I think it's the Behringer 273, or I forget the actual model of it. And they also, or the 1273. And I think they also have the Behringer 369, which is a Neve 33609 replica. I think that those are getting high reviews, just like Behringer did really well with their Behringer X32. And Behringer's doing really well. A lot of the stuff that Behringer's making now, especially with their synthesizers, are getting extremely high reviews. So I think Behringer is knocking out the park. And I think Behringer's always been successful regardless of what people talk about Behringer and their lawsuits and all this other stuff. But I have Behringer gear. Now, I think with not just Behringer, but Warm Audio has become a multi-million dollar company because they're so successful with their microphones, their preamps, their compressors. They're doing extremely well. And not just that, but people have the Stem Audio, there's Heritage Audio, there's Ventec, there's do-it-yourself units like Hairball Audio, where it allows you to buy the everything and build it yourself. But I think what I'm seeing, and I'm just noticing it just from, I watch a lot of studio tours, and there are so much Warm Audio or Clark Technic or Stem Audio, or just a lot of clones in these racks that normally would have been filled with the go-to pieces. I'm talking about the Universal Audio 1176s and the Teletronic LA2As and Pultec EQs and Lang EQs and distressors and Neve 1073 preamps and API 312 or 550s or whatever, or API 2500. And I'm talking about all the high-end, really expensive pieces of rack outboard gear and so forth. I'm seeing more and more of replica companies in these racks, and I'm almost positive 99% of people that have got replica part like I do are very happy with the replica companies. Like I have Lindale Audio. Lindale Audio jumped on the game. Lindale Audio has their whatever. I can't talk. But Lindale Audio, the Warm Audio, there's a lot of whatever the case. Midas is owned by Behringer. TC Electronics is owned by Behringer. Clark Technic is owned by Behringer. And there's a lot of companies. Tannoy is owned by Behringer. There's a lot of companies that are making gear, and they're making it for a fraction of the cost. So with that being said, naturally, from an economical standpoint of view, that if I had, why would I spend $8,000 on a Pultec EQ when I can get 9-10 pieces of outboard gear, Warm Audio, Stem Audio, Heritage Audio, and all this for the price of one Pultec? You know, why would I spend that? You know, like my Lindell, those are $399 a piece. Those are Pultec style EQs for $399. Why would I spend $8,000 to get two Pultecs, $16,000 to get two Pultecs when I get the Lindell Audio and get the set pretty much 99.9% of the same results with those EQs? Why would I do that? That little fraction of percentage difference is not going to be heard in the mix. I don't care how people can argue it. The only people that will argue about you not owning a Pultec or Universal Audio 1176 or need 1073 preamp or whatever are gear snobs, because they've been psychologically programmed to think that that's the only pieces of gear that's going to give you great results. Now, I would say this, you know, not to be going very, very long, but I will say this. If you can afford API and Neve and Distressors and Universal Audio 1176 and Pultecs and all that, of course, by all means, if you're in the market for outboard gear, of course, if you can afford it. But 90+% of people can't afford to dish out that kind of cash. You know, $500,000 in outboard gear. You know, when most people say, you know, $500,000 in outboard gear, when I can spend $50,000 and have me an up and ready to go top-notch studio for $50,000. You know, that's everything I would ever need, because I would have a rack full of, you know, clones, and I would have a lot of plugins and soft DAW and interface, and if you got a console, whatever the case, you know, studio monitors, whatever, I would already have there. I can $50,000, $100,000 max. So why would I want to spend $500,000 just because? What's the best way I can say that? It's like, what's the best way to, when it comes to people that think you have to have, how do you describe that? People that, put like this, the people that will frown down on your gear are definitely not willing to come out their pocket to help you pay for the gear that they're frowning on, because they think you need it. You know, you're supposed to have Universal Audio 1176s. Why, or whatever the case. If I can get a Blue Stripe Black Lion for $699, or if I'm going to spend $27.99 for the Blue Stripe Universal Audio, why would I spend $2,700 on the Universal Audio when the Black Lion will give me the exact same results, or 99% of the same results? That 1% cannot be heard in the mix or recording. It cannot. They can argue to death. There are people that there have been, and my last point, and I'm in the video. You can go and listen to all the classic artists from the 70s and 80s, when these were the only, before the existence of clone companies, when there was API consoles or Neve consoles or SSL consoles or MCI consoles or whatever, and all the outboard gear was Universal Audio and LA2As and Pultecs and blah 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 blah. The thing is, unless you listen to the credits, unless you read the credits and can hear, you know, you have to look at the credits and say, okay, oh, this was recorded at Sunset Sound, but it was mixed at United Way, but then was mastered at this studio. Because from the time a recording from a guitar or drums or keyboards, whatever, by the time it gets to the tape, the sound has changed. From the time the tape gets back to the console, for whatever the case, the sound has changed. And from the time you start adding processing onto it with outboard gear, the sound has changed. The biggest problems with a lot of gear back in the day was noise. That's the reason why everyone was so happy with digital gotten so much better, because you can eliminate a lot of noise. Because a lot of analog gear can make noise, whether it's ground noise or just noise in general, because the gear can be noisy. But in the end, whether it was recorded at the record plant, or it was recorded at Sunset Sound, or is recorded at Westlake, or is recorded at whatever case. The point is, if it was recorded at Westlake, well, guess what kind of console they used to have in one of the control rooms, like in Harrison console. You go to another studio where they had a Triton, like Cherokee Studios have a Triton in theirs. You can go to United Way where they had either a Focusrite or an SSL or Neve. Or you can go to Conway, they have a Neve in there. Or you can go to Larrabee, they got an SSL in there. Or you can go to Record Plant, they had an SSL in there. Or you can go to this studio, they have an MCI in that one. You get my point. You would never know unless you knew which studio is recorded at. And on top of that, with the processing, not every engineer uses the same vocal chain and the same pieces of gear on everything. Not everyone uses an LA2A on bass. Sometimes they like an LA3A or an LA4A. Or it just goes on and on and on. Some people don't even want to use no LAs. They want to use 2-Tech. Or they're going to use this compressor or that compressor, that microphone. But in the end, for the most part, a lot of those recordings, the only really difference that you heard is volume levels. Some recordings were recorded at, and this deals with the mastering. Sometimes it's recorded with a salted volume, then becomes the loudness wars where, when it comes to mastering, make stuff louder and louder and louder, whatever the case. But I'll go way on and on and on trying to do that. To end the point, because it's already 12 minutes, I honestly think with the price and affordability of outboard gear, especially for clones and plugins, it's people are going to they're going to look at this like it makes no, it's like it's a no-brainer kind of. Yes, I can buy a Pultec for $8,000, $10,000, or I can buy a whole bunch of gear for $8,000 to $10,000 instead of buying one Pultec. I can get a Pultec plug-in for one of my favorite plug-in companies and throw it on in my DAW, because that's what we're all doing everything in a DAW anyway. If I need a Pultec EQ, I'll just use Waves Pultec plug-in. Or I can use one of the, a clone, like my Clark Technics down there, or my Lindell Audio Pultec. I can use those. Why would I spend $8,000? $8,000 can get you dang near majority of everything in my rack. Not everything, but a lot. So imagine trying to get 2 pairs so you can have a stereo pair of Pultecs for $16,000. $16,000 can get you everything in my racks. Everything for $16,000. So that's going to do it for the video. This is the reason why I think the high-end gear companies like Universal Audio, and companies like that are going to run into some issues with these clone companies, because everyone's going clones because they're way more affordable. And I think that's why you're going to see less and less of all the staple gear, especially as the more and more recording studios close that had that type of gear, high-end gear. As they close, the only way you'll start seeing all these high-end pieces of gear pop in studios is if the price comes down on eBay or Reverb, and where you can get an LA2A or Universal Audio for the same price of a Warm Audio. But that price is never going to happen. I think they're just going to fade away. Like you see a lot of gear, like SSL consoles, are fading away, because it's like, and I'm in my mind, I'm like, where is this gear going? And there now, if you write in the comments your opinion on where you think, these with these commercial studios and this high end gear, where do you think it's going? Because I don't think the average home recording studio person can afford, a $3,000 Universal Audio 1176, a $8,000 Pultec, a $30,000 Fairchild. I don't think people are looking to, $30,000 Fairchild. I can build an entire home recording studio for $30,000 over one Fairchild, one unit. When I could build an entire home recording studio for $30,000, why would I go that route? So I just want everyone's opinion on that. Thanks for watching. Y'all have a great one.